Now, the book called X's and No's, The Breakup Advice You Don't Want to Hear, is a compassionate guide to healing broken hearts. I'm delighted to say we have the author with us now. Oh, I meant to ask you, so sorry, Cole. Do I pronounce your surname Zesiger?
Yeah, correct.
So
exactly.
Here's Cole Zesiger. It's a very unusual surname. Thank you for joining us. Great title. Instead of X's and O's, it's X's and No's.
Yeah, I meant to write it just to be the book I wish I had when I went through my divorce and breakup. So it's pretty much just the guidebook that if you feel like you're drowning in heartbreak, you don't know what to do, whether you're wanting to move on or get back together, I wrote it to just be an absolute guide for that kind of person.
So this is a very personal story as well.
Yeah.
So do you think you learnt by things that happened to you, how you dealt with it, or are you a professional coach?
Kind of both. So I got married when I was pretty young, and then I was 20 years old and then got divorced at 23. So really young. I kind of speed ran that. And then since then, I've been coaching people through divorce and breakup. So I've been coaching for about 4 or 5 years now, and I have about 2,000 clients I've worked with one-on-one. So the book it starts with my story and the things that I learned through that, but then also sharing stories from people of all ages all around the world that have gone through heartbreak as well.
And do you think for your story, and a lot of other people will resonate with it, it's because you got married too young?
Partly. I do think that I didn't have the skills necessary to make it work at the beginning. I feel like I kind of got married just because that's what I thought I should do that young. Like, we were both pretty young, but I was always told that marriage was something that was supposed to be really hard. So when we would fight and we would have all these disagreements, I just kind of thought that was what was normal. I didn't really have enough experience to know anything different. And then when she came home and wanted a divorce, it kind of just broke my entire world. Mm-hmm. So the book is how I recovered from that and rebuilt.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to go through. I mean, I've been through a divorce and it is like a bereavement, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it says here that there are other reasons why people break up, from drained emotional bank accounts to sabotage and familiarity. What do you mean by that?
So a drained emotional bank account, that's my favorite way of just quantifying the health of a relationship. So you can think about it like a relationship is like a bank account where deposits are fun, easy, light experiences, and withdrawals are going to be difficult experiences where fights or arguments or anything like that. So what I see in a lot of relationships that break down is they start out with a lot of deposits. Like, you're falling in love, it's really fun. But then as it goes along, we tend to just either become roommates and just talk to each other about the chores and logistics that need to be done, or maybe you're always asking for things and really focusing on yourself and things that you would need. So you're always saying, like, can you do this for me? And we forget to include the playfulness that actually includes those deposits. So most times when people break up and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to get back together, they just say all of these things that they need again. But if all of that's built up, just a lot of withdrawals, and the bank account's already at zero, then people aren't going to want to give you anything else. There's already nothing in the account. So one of the first things I help people work on, if they're trying, if their relationship's really struggling and they're trying to make it work again, is starting to make those deposits again. Even if it feels like your needs aren't being met at the beginning. Just starting to have fun and playful experiences so that it can actually have something to draw from. You can actually have some sort of connection to be the base that asking for things actually feels worth it for your partner. So that's the first thing. The self-sabotage thing I see a lot is a lot of times, like, people will get in relationships that are actually better than what they've had in the past. Like, they will be with people who are actually treating them a lot better than maybe their parents treated them or ex-partners have treated them. And they still feel stressed and can sometimes destroy those relationships and then really blame themselves. But what I've learned through my research is that our brains aren't actually wired for being happy. They're wired for just what is familiar. So if you think like a timeline, what's familiar is in the middle. And then anything worse than what you've been through in the past, and anything better than what you've been through in the past, both of those are going to carry a level of stress and uncertainty. So if you're feeling like that and you're you're thinking, okay, this relationship is really good. Like I can't tell why I'm stressed. Then sometimes just the awareness of that your brain is going to be looking at it and being like, is this something we've been through before? Is this something that feels similar to my past experience? And even if it's better, it might stress you out, but that doesn't necessarily mean that anything is wrong with it. It just means you need more time getting used to being treated that way until you can start to believe that you deserve that.
I guess the familiarity part is humans inherently don't like change, do they?
Yeah. Our brains they're pretty much wired to just look for patterns and be like, if I've been through this before and I survived, then let's just do more things like that. I don't want to do anything different because uncertainty includes danger. And that's just the conundrum, because sometimes uncertainty is actually better than what you've been through in the past.
And as far as the self-sabotage is concerned, I know a few people that they can meet somebody new, fall in love, and they get so scared that they're going to get hurt that they start pushing people away. Is that also sabotage?
100%. Yeah, that's actually, so there's one of the things I talk about in the book is attachment styles or attachment theory. And it divides people into 4 general categories. So I'll list them really quick here. If anyone's listening, I'll just take this as like a little quiz to try to see where you are, because it helps you as a kind of a map to see how you navigate relationships. But there's 4 categories that people generally fall into. They're called secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. And it depends on the environment that you were raised in. So if you grew up in an environment that your parents met your needs consistently, so when you were hungry, sad, needed something like that, if they were there more than 50% of the time, those kids grow up believing I am good enough for love. Like, I deserve it. There's something intrinsically good about me. And then the world is full of love. So when they grow up, they end up acting like that. They don't tend to sabotage. They tend to assume the best of people. They tend to be themselves, be vulnerable, be comfortable with distance and closeness. That's called a secure attachment style. And it's about 50% of the population. The next one, which this is not the one where people push people away, but this is the people that tend to put too much pressure on relationships. They're called anxiously attached. So if the parents are there inconsistently, doesn't necessarily mean they were bad. Like, a lot of times just means they were busy with work, or maybe they got divorced, or maybe one of your siblings needed more attention than you did. They were going through some things that the parents really needed to focus on them. Those kids can start to think, okay, love exists because I felt this sometimes, but something must be wrong with me. I must be fundamentally broken in some way. So love exists, but love is rare. So if I ever get it or luck into it, I need to hold on to it very, very tightly. So these are people that become really hyper vigilant to see if their partner really, like, if they're leaving them, they get easily jealous. They ask for reassurance repeatedly. And it might not even be because their partner's doing anything wrong. It just really stems from that first belief that I don't deserve it for some reason, so I know it's going to get away. Now, the ones that push people away, like you mentioned, they're called avoidantly attached. So those ones grow up in a similar way where things are inconsistent, but also maybe love just wasn't very open when they grew up. Maybe they weren't a family that said, I love you a lot, or they were taught through their parents' behavior that it's better if you just rely on yourself. These are also people that get really hurt in the past and just really make an agreement with themselves that love is something that's going to hurt me. So I need to keep it at arm's length. They're still human, so they really want love and connection because that's just what we're designed to need. But they know through experience that it's something that can cause them pain. So when they grow up and have adult relationships, they tend to have a hard time being vulnerable, have a hard time expressing themselves and getting deep emotionally with another person. They're usually pretty self-sufficient, but as relationships level up in depth, like when you become official or when you move in together, when you become engaged, they feel this ambiguous sense of stress and feel the need to just run away and get out. And sometimes they'll end relationships very abruptly. And then the last one, disorganized attachments, the rarest one. Anxious and avoidant tend to be about 23% of the population each. But the last one, about 2% of people are what's called disorganized. And usually this comes from pretty traumatic childhoods where they needed to develop anxious and avoidant tendencies to survive that situation. So they believe I'm not worthy of love and love can hurt me. So I really, really need love, but when I get it, it's going to hurt me. So a lot of push and pull, a lot of explosive dynamics, a lot of on and off relationships. The cool thing with all these, though, is all of them can be worked through. None of them are a death sentence or like a diagnosis. It's literally just whatever style you adapted to growing up gets carried on into your adult life. And similar to like a dog, if it grew up in cold weather, would have thick fur. If you can teach yourself how to live in a more secure way, you can adapt and become more secure in your relationships, so you don't have to keep sabotaging them, or you don't have to keep feeling like everybody's going to leave you. That's one of the most amazing things I've learned through helping these people.
It's interesting. I'm not going to tell you what my answers are, but I was writing them down, and I am surprised at the answers, actually, when you actually think about it. That's all I'm going to say. So hopefully some people did it at home and feel the same. If you have split up from somebody or getting divorced or got a divorce, would you advise no contact? Can temptation be a thing?
Yeah, 100%. That's the first thing that I advise most people to do. It's not always easy. Like if you have kids with each other or if you work together, some contact may be necessary. And if that's the case, then I'd recommend just trying to keep it contained to that contact that's necessary and nothing outside of that. But the main reason is because when you're going through heartbreak, the pathways that are being lit up in your brain are actually really like eerily similar to people who are withdrawing from hard drugs. There's actually a study where they scanned the brains of people who were going through the loss of an important person to them, and then people who were withdrawing from cocaine addiction, and the brains looked almost the same under scans. So when you're going through like a breakup or divorce, especially if you're the one who's being left, then your brain is going to do all it can it's going to be extremely motivated to just spend time around the person and try to do anything you can to change their mind. And a lot of times that can lead to some pretty unhealthy behaviors and showing up at their work, driving by their house, not listening to them. A lot of people I've worked with have gotten restraining orders. The police have been involved. And what no contact does, it does two things. One, it allows you to actually detox from that person so that you can start being motivated by the other forces in your life again. So things like hobbies, your family relationships, your friends, none of that is going to feel like it matters to you until you have necessary space from the person that you're addicted to. So that's the first thing it does. And second, a lot of people, after they get broken up with or left, they do have a strong desire to get back together. So what I often say too is if you actually want to, and the other person's saying, I want space from you, I don't want this right now, you trying to force yourself down their throat is actually going to strengthen the desire in them to run away. But if you actually give them that space and they can clearly identify, okay, this is what life was like in the relationship, this is what life was like outside of the relationship, then they actually have the opportunity to change their mind and the opportunity to choose. But if you try to steal that from them by being in their life, which I know how it feels because I've done it. That's why I care about talking about this stuff. But if you try to just take that decision away, usually what you're taking away is just any opportunity for them to change their mind, because the more pressure you're putting on, the more you're chasing, the more need they're going to feel to run away.
Yeah, that's
so it has
pressure.
Both of those effects.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm trying to think back to my divorce, which was 25 years ago, but it's difficult when you have coupley friends, I think, because they tend to take sides. They feel they need to take sides. But in this day and age, it must be so hard because of social media. You can't stop seeing these people on social media.
You need to be pretty regimented.
Yeah.
So that social media is probably the most difficult aspect of a breakup that I see, because as I'm talking about like the withdrawal part, the reason that's happening is your brain has a system called the dopaminergic system. It's dopamine, which most people have heard of, where it's a chemical that makes you feel good and gives you cravings and motivation towards something. And it's a habit forming chemical. So before, before the advent of social media, if you were seeing your ex and you'd see them like weekly, then you'd get addicted and it would be hard to break it. But now, even if you just see their stories, or a lot of people, they get forced to unfollow, but they can still see the numbers, like how many people they're following or unfollowing. And they'll make up all these hypothetical like stories in their heads about, oh my gosh, they met this girl and that's why their following thing went up, or it went down. Okay, that didn't work out for them. So it's simulating like you are seeing them. And it's just recycling that dopamine so it becomes a deeper and deeper addiction. So what I tell people to do is the part of your brain that's being used when you're in that like dopamine loop of just looking and looking and looking is called the limbic system. It's an older part of the brain. It's more deep central in the brain. It's what we use for breathing and more automatic functions. So if you can change it to become a choice that you're actually looking at the social media instead of something automatic, it switches the part of your brain that's being used to the part of your brain that you use to make decisions. It's called the prefrontal cortex. So if you use that part and it becomes a decision, you have the power to actually choose not to do it. So what I actually do is if you're really struggling checking social media of your ex, like it's a daily habit, maybe like it's not abnormal for people to be checking like 50 times a day. Like that sounds crazy, but that's probably average of what I see because it's so easy. Like it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you have certainty, control. So a couple of times an hour is pretty common. But if that's you, what I recommend is picking a time in the day, like 2 to 3 p.m., a little window. And during that window, you can be as crazy as you want to be. You can stalk as much as you feel the need, but outside of the window. So if it's like 3:01 or 1:59, you're not allowed to. You have to wait until the next day's window. And again, that changes it from an automatic compulsive action to something that you are choosing to do. And what I found is once people choose that, like they have that crazy time for maybe 4 days in a row, then they start feeling strong enough. Okay, I can skip it and I can go 2 days and just use the window in 2 days. And eventually they're able to wean themselves off. So that's what I'd recommend with social media. But if you're strong enough to just not look, that's even better.
Yeah, that's great advice. And finally, it's so easy to be bitter, especially if you're the one that's been left. But I think if people can learn, and this is much more easier said than done, I know, but learn how to forgive and heal, then it's better for them, isn't it?
1,000,000%. Yeah, I have a whole chapter in the book about that because one thing I've noticed really consistently, there's a path that people go on emotionally after heartbreak. It starts out super anxiety fueled. They feel like that's the only thing they can think about. It's just in their mind all the time. And then they start having some things in their life go well, like maybe they get a promotion at work, or they develop a new hobby and things are going good. And once they get past that, they start to feel some stability in their life. Anger shows up, which usually the anger is always there. It's just underneath the anxiety because you can't feel angry because you want them back so bad. So it's kind of hidden. But then once you start being more stable, it shows up. And then people bifurcate into two paths. Some people let that anger become like a personality trait where they're like, I'm the person who got cheated on, or I'm the person who got broken up with. I'm the person who got divorced. And then that kind of just becomes their story of who they are. So then when they go out and date again, they find it really hard to trust new people because I'm the person who got really hurt. And then there's other people that will choose letting go and forgiveness, which to some people that sounds kind of ugly. Like, I'm the one who got hurt. Why do I need to be the bigger person? Why do I need to forgive? But I like to liken it to if someone got hit by a car and then maybe their leg got broken, then they have the choice to sit around and just have a broken leg or go to physical therapy and get better. And it's not like they deserve physical therapy. It's not like they did something wrong that made them have to do that. It's totally not fair. But now it's their responsibility. Do they want to learn to walk again and have an enjoyable life, or do they want to just be crippled in this way?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. If you were really hurt in a relationship, it is not your fault whatsoever. But it is your responsibility to deal with it and be able to learn what you have to learn. And sometimes that goes through the route of forgiving, having compassion, because that in some way takes away the power that the ex has over you. If you can see them with compassion, realize they're just a broken person, that's why they do broken things, then they're not so powerful anymore to be able to hurt you. But The people that take responsibility for that and say, okay, I'm really hurt. I've got trust issues now, but now that's my job. I'm supposed to figure out how to deal with that now. No one's going to save me from this. Those are the people that tend to actually have better lives because of the divorce or because of the breakup, because they become deeper, more compassionate people. And those are the people that look back and say, I'm grateful that this happened, even though it was horrible at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And one final thing. You mentioned moving on. Can you ever move on too soon? Is there a time limit, do you think?
I think it depends on the person. Generally, like time limits I've seen from actual studies is about 3 months, I'd say, is a general one for a lot of relationships, like before people start dating again. I've also seen that for divorces, it's similar to losing a loved one to death. And that like the statistical timeline on that is like a year is a common thing. But the main thing that I've seen, which I think is better than timelines because it can vary so much from person to person, is if you're happy enough with the life that you have, meaning that you're not going to just accept the first person that's interested in you. Like if you actually are happy enough that you're like, my singleness is valuable to me. I will trade in being single for someone who will make my life better, not just someone who breathes and will make me not be lonely. That's I think better than a timeline. And one more analogy for that is kind of like if you think about if you lost your job and you don't have any savings, then any job that will pay you money will be amazing and you'll take it. Whereas if you lose your job but you have a lot of savings, then you'll be able to be picky and be able to choose something that you actually want to do. So same thing here. Like if you have things going on in your life, you've built hobbies, you have a purpose, you have friends, you have family, then you're going to be able to be happy enough that I know what I'm looking for and I'm going to choose someone that fits that. Whereas if you're like, I just got divorced and nothing matters to me, so I just need a girlfriend, which is what I did. That's the beginning of the book. That's the path I followed. Then a lot of times you can end up picking people who aren't as compatible to you. You can pick things that'll just get you heartbroken again. So more than a timeline, I'd make the judgment based on that.
Yeah. Some great analogies there. Thank you, Cole. And for our readers, the book is called X's and No's, The Breakup Advice You Don't Want to Hear. Came out in February. And as always, we're selling it on our website, in our bookshop, TRE.radio. Cole or Coach Cole, do you have a website as well?
Yeah, it's CoachColeZesiger.com.
Excellent. It's been really, really interesting. Thank you so much for being on the show.
I loved it. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.